Improving your paintings can be really, really difficult, but in this video I'm going to share 5 really simple tips that can take your paintings from a beginner level to something like this one, which I've just created. It doesn't matter if you are a beginner or an intermediate level painter, these tips are going to hopefully change the way that you think about painting so that you can massively improve your work. And the best thing is about these tips is that you can start applying them to your painting process instantly. It doesn't matter whether I'm working in acrylics or oils, I always do the same first step, which is to prime my canvas and get rid of this stark white background. And today I'm doing that with some burnt sienna acrylic paints. Sometimes I will use a Prussian blue. It just depends on how I want the painting to feel. If I want the painting to be warmer, I will put a warmer base coat down, and if I want it cooler, I'll put a cooler base coat down with that Prussian blue. But they're the 2 base colours that I use and how I choose which one I want. Tip number 2 is start simple. Simplify your shapes, simplify your values, simplify your colours. You don't need to focus on details, just focus on the simple forms, the simple geometric shapes that you can see. I mean, for this painting, I just split it up into 2 simple colours. A warm colour for the lights and a cooler, more purpley colour for the shadows. I then could split those into different values. So I could have a brightest light, a mid light and a dark light, and then a brightest shadow, a lightest shadow and a darkest shadow. And those shadows and those lights never cross over. They're always kept separate. So your darkest light is always brighter than your lightest shadow. I know, it's a bit of a tongue twister. By focusing on just the values, you can really construct a 3D image from your painting without having to worry about any of the details. It's also much easier to get your proportions right when you're just thinking in terms of those big block shapes of dark and light, rather than thinking about all of those little tiny details or wrinkles of the elephant, for example. You don't have to use this for painting wildlife. You can use this for painting people. You can use it for painting landscapes. You can use it for painting still lifes. It doesn't matter what you're trying to paint. The first thing that you should be focusing on if you want to instantly improve your paintings is getting those values, the form and the proportions as good as you possibly can. The next tip is about edges, and you may have heard a lot about using soft edges and hard edges in your work. So sometimes where you want it blended out, sometimes where you want it looking solid, and that's all well and good. But what's a nice easy way to do that when you could be working with acrylics, which dry really quickly, or you could be working with oil paints, which dry very slowly, but you could be spending all day painting your subject and then not have enough time to work on the painting while it's still wet. So what can you do? And you can do something that I like to do when I finish my blocking. I like to just go around the edge of the subject with some very simple colours that I can see in the background, so that I can blend those edges while the subject is still wet, and then I can work on that later when it's dry. So I've got those edges in there while all the paint is still fluid, still workable, so I can create those soft edges so it doesn't look like I've just stuck my subject onto the background, which is what happens if all your edges are just hard and painted on after your subject has dried. Okay, my 4th simple tip and part of my process is once I've got my subject in and once I've done those edges, then I'll start to work on the background. And I'll start to work on the background from the furthest point in the picture. So in this case, it's the sky. And then I'll start to work closer and closer into the foreground. Another quick tip with just paintings in general, you need to have a focal point. In the case of this painting, it's the elephant. So the elephant is where all of my detail is going. The background, so the sky, the clouds, these trees here and the water, it doesn't need as much detail as the elephant because I want you to look at that elephant. That's where I want you to spend most of your time on this painting. One thing that can happen when you are working from photo references is that the photo reference can cause everything to be sharp, or it can create a very blurred bokeh look, which is really nice, but not something that happens in real life. The other thing that happens when you're using photos as references is if the focal point is on this elephant, for example, this foreground might be really, really, really blurry on that reference photo, and you can copy that if you want to, you can recreate that in the painting if you want to, but I don't like that because I like to be able to imagine you're stepping into that painting like it is in real life. And in real life, that blurring in the foreground, it doesn't happen with your eyes. I mean, maybe it does if you've got poor eyesight, but most of the time it doesn't. So I like to keep everything slightly sharper than that blurred bokeh look, but I just don't have as much detail in the background or in the secondary parts of the painting. The subject, the elephant in this case, that's where that detail and that's where all of my fine brushwork goes. And then the final tip when you are creating paintings like this, which are realistic paintings, is you can get bogged down in the details. It can be really tricky to decide where to stop with adding those details from the photo. My advice is to use as little detail as possible. Simplify everything as much as possible. Don't try to put everything that's in that photo into your painting, because you don't need it. Your eye isn't as good at seeing things as a camera lens is, so your eye isn't going to be able to see all of those details. What you're trying to do is give the impression of details. So I'm not going in painting every single wrinkle on this elephant's face. What I'm doing is try to just give the impression that when you look at this painting, that elephant has wrinkly skin. And I can do that by manipulating the paint in such a way that it looks like the light shining on the wrinkles of that elephant's face is 3D and formful, gives ridges and dimples within that skin. The other thing with adding these details is if you've spent the time building up your blocking, so like I did with this painting, that value blocking and then the colours, then you don't need to paint over all of that in its entirety. You can leave some of those colours showing through. You can use that as a base, as the foundations for your detail layer. So my detail layers, especially with this elephant in particular, were just very, very thin washes of paint over the top of the colours I'd already put down. So there's still a lot of that colour, a lot of that initial not very good blocking showing through into this painting. It doesn't actually take very much to turn that blocking into something that looks like this, as long as you take your time and you're careful and you think about which details you want to keep and which details aren't necessary. So hopefully those tips were helpful to you, and I've just got a little bit of a Q&A based on some of the things in that video. So the first question is, what type of paint was I using for this demo? And the answer to that is oil paints. For this one, I wanted to experiment using oil paints. I used acrylics for the base in a very, very, very thin wash, and oil paints for the actual elephant itself. And I really, really enjoyed working with oil paints, and oil paints are something that I'm trying to get better with and get more familiar with, because I've used acrylic paints for years. I'm pretty comfortable with using acrylic paints, and I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit with the oils. The second question is, what surface am I painting on? And that is an ACF canvas. These are brand new canvases that I have really, really enjoyed using. I've got a massive one behind me which I'm so excited to start painting on as well, and I'll just leave a link in the description so you can check those out if you want to. The third question is this elephant painting a tutorial? And yes, it is. Not this YouTube video, but I have created a full-length video series that narrates pretty much my entire process for painting that elephant from start to finish, and that is available through my Patreon. And you can either sign up as a member, the community tier members get access to all of those videos, or if you don't want to sign up, you can just purchase the course by itself. But again, I'll leave a link to that in the description so you can go and check it out if you want to. The fourth question is, what's the best way to blend edges when using fast drying paints like acrylics? So obviously I used oil paints in this video, which are super easy to blend. The thing with acrylics is they dry super fast, which means blending can be very difficult. My personal way to overcome that is I use very thin layers of paint. So where my oil paintings might be done in 2 layers, so I can put that blocking down and then I can put the glazing on later, I have to do 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 layers with acrylics. So in one respect, oil paintings are faster, but in another respect, the acrylic paintings dry quicker so that you can work on them all in one session. So my oil paintings can take me days to weeks to finish because I have to wait for each layer to dry, whereas my acrylic paintings I can do in a couple of days because those layers are pretty much dry within 10-15 minutes of putting them down, so I can move on to the next one almost instantly. So both of them have their advantages. With acrylics, it just really concentrates on keeping those layers very thin to get that soft blending. And I actually have a video that I've done that goes through acrylic blending, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to go and watch it, but I think I might do an updated one, so please do let me know in the comments if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing. The next question is, how do I decide which shapes or values to simplify first when starting a new painting? That's a difficult question because it's not an easy thing to do. It's practice, it's intuition, it's your artistic license, it's what you see it as. There was a way that in Photoshop you used to be able to actually split up images into like a posterized version of itself. It was called a cutout filter. I'm not sure if they still have that or not, I don't use it anymore, but that allowed me to actually digitally split everything into sort of 7 colours and all the values and see them there in front of me. Now it's just about practice and it's just something that I've been doing for years and years. But if you wanted to, you could get your reference photo digitally and try to convert it into like a posterized version of itself, and then that will help you simplify those values so that then you can transfer them really easily onto the canvas. That brings us on to the next question. Is it better to work from life or from a reference photo when practicing these tips? So 2 responses to that. The first response is, if you can paint from life or draw from life, then do it. I neglected life drawing for so long and I really struggle with it, so I wish I had put more effort into drawing from life. Like that is probably the fastest way to improve your proportions, improve seeing those values, and improve developing your own style as well. When you're interpreting things that aren't on a photograph, when you're seeing them in real life, you can interpret that onto the 2D surface. Whereas if you're working from a reference photo, you've already got a 2D thing there, so you're just converting a 2D object into another 2D object, which is easier, I suppose, if you're going for realism, but harder if you're trying to develop your own style and be unique as an artist. However, that being said, reference photos have been a complete game changer for painting details and getting proportions correct. So I do heavily rely on reference photos with my paintings, especially when it comes to adding details, and especially when it comes to figuring out the light as well and the 3D form of the structure. But that lighting and that 3D form, they're things that you could improve on by drawing from life. If you can do it from life and you can draw things in lots of different lighting, lots of different positions, then you are much better at redrawing those on canvases, on sketch pads, and making up things as well, because you've actually done all that studying on those things in life. It makes it easier doing it on a bigger surface, because when you are relying heavily on reference photos, you're stuck with that reference. You limit what you can do. Whereas drawing from life, if you do a lot of it and enough of it, you can adjust things really easily. Then the next question is, how often should I practice these tips to see real improvement? The answer to that is every single painting or drawing that you do. These tips apply for drawings as well. Start with the big shapes, then focus on the details. Think about how your background interacts with your subject. It doesn't have to just be a painting thing. This can be used with any medium that you want. It's such a good process, and the process that I use for all of my paintings. The next question is, can I go back and fix older paintings using these methods? And you absolutely can, and I actually think I will do a whole standalone video about doing that. So how do you take a painting that you finished a few years ago, don't quite like, how do you take the things that you've learned now and add it to that painting? And basically the simple answer to that is you treat that original painting like the underpainting stage. You look at the things you like, you adjust the things that you don't by doing that initial block-in value stage over the top of the painting that you've already got. And then, once that's dry, you come back in following the steps and correct the painting to make it better. But as I said, I'll do an entire video just on that. Okay, the second to last question is, what should I do if my proportions look off even after simplifying? And the easy answer to that is go back and do it again. Make sure from the very start of the painting process, you've got those foundations in as solidly as you possibly can. Make sure that you've got those big shapes. It doesn't mean like, oh, the eyes are in the right place or the trunk wrinkles are all in the right place. Just make sure you've got the big blobs, the big basic structures in the right place. So for example, if you were doing a portrait, instead of going in and like making sure the pupil and the eyes in the right place, this big shape here of your eye socket, just make sure that big shape is in the right place first. And if it's not, correct it really early on in that first stage. If you start getting to the details, it makes it much harder to make those corrections. Not only because you have to start making the corrections with the details, but also you've committed to that painting for so long, and it makes it much harder mentally to go, oh my god, that's completely wrong, I'm going to have to start again. So you're less likely to make those changes. So it's always better to get the most solid foundation you can right at the very beginning, and if it doesn't look right at the beginning stages, fix it. And the final question is, have you ever struggled with knowing when to stop adding detail, and how did I handle it? And I think I'm not actually going to answer that one. I'm going to actually give you that question, and I'd like you to put your answer in the comments. How do you know when to stop adding detail? When do you know that a painting's finished? I've got my own reasons, but I'd love to hear yours. Anyway, I hope you found the video helpful. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and as always, I'll see you next time.